Good morning and welcome back. Welcome back to Who Am I? It's kind of like what is this show? It's struggling to find its identity, as are we all. And it's kind of a reflection of my own search for identity. I mean it on so many levels. When I ask the question, who am I mean it from very specific, personal details of my own personal self. I also mean it more collectively and generally, pulling out to bigger frames of the same question, or lining up in different ways with the same question. Who am I? Who are we? What are we doing here? How did we get here? Where are we going? What's the point? What's the object of the exercise I think is a good way to put it. The object of the exercise. And the object of the exercise goes pretty high up on your operating system software. Pretty high up there at the top, along with primary assumptions about the nature of the paradigm that we are nested in, invested in, part of, matrixed with, creating, co-creating, whatever you want to say. You got to understand the reality making machine around you, as well as yourself. Your bigger, you didn't just get here. There's been a movie, ongoing, physical movie going on a 3D movie going on for the last, forever. But for our purposes, our story started back when we started history, when we started keeping track. Why did we start keeping track? Now, it's possible we did try to keep track a little bit before this last bit of history. It's very possible because the Earth is a very geologically active planet. It really is. And a lot of things have happened on planet Earth. The cataclysms have bombed, if you will, civilizations back to the Stone Age more than once, I think. Certainly we are struggling back from a big one some 10,000 years ago. I think there was a big flood. I think what happened was that there was a break somewhere between oceans on a small, strait, something broke, and then one sea, which was at a level different than the other, filled up a place that hadn't been filled before. That kind of thing. Now, don't quote me on that, but my imagination can see ways that there was a big flood. There have been ice ages and warming periods. We're actually in a naturally occurring cyclical warming period at the moment. The problem is that our rigid activities, the way we believe that we have to act because the way human beings just are, we're vested in the momentums we've got going. And it's hard for us to change. We have not built a particularly flexible mindset or physical system. It's not particularly in alignment with the rhythms of the seasons, with the rest of the threads of life, with the flow of past, present, future, harmonious. We are not particularly in alignment with the true nature of our nature. And that's really the problem. If we would understand our own nature just a little bit better and do a little bit better job of being our authentic selves and being in alignment, each of us individually, hearing the call of Source. You don't have to spookify it by turning it into a religion and making it really proprietary. And then when you talk about it, it has to be in sacred tones. We could have a general understanding of some abstract things that are not part of the ethnic color. Bless your ethnic color and your particular brand of religion, but understand what the bigger abstract frame that it is nesting in, so that you don't go dark in your religion, so you don't misunderstand the dark energies aspect of this. There really is there's no independent source of darkness, of devil, of demon, of what the devil is. And he's actually quite powerful because he's a reflection of our own he's a creation of ourselves. He's created in a shadow that we do. It's a thing that we do whenever we go with our negative self. You can go with your negative self a little bit, and we're designed to do that. Don't get all over yourself. But don't get carried away with your emotions. Don't get carried away with your emotional self. Understand that your emotions are a tool to one thing. But the meaning of what they're telling you might be bigger than you're taking it as you fly by the seat of your pants and, get yanked around hard by every emotion that you have. I know people like this, and they argue for it has to be this way. And so maybe they're right. That's the life that they have chosen to live. High momentum, no matter what. It's different than those of us who have chosen a different path, which is alignment, no matter what. Alignment and general understanding of the whole situation. Period. I will settle for nothing less. I will understand generally what's going on. And then for me specifically, once I get the full general, and I'm on it, folks. Once I get the whole general, then, I'm moving, and I am moving as life comes at me, because life will. Even if you decide to try to check out, you can't check out because it's going to keep coming at you, especially if you're authentic. Because if you're authentic, then you love something. Something in this physical world of form, you have cast your net of love over. And if you love something in the world of form, well, guess what? The world of form changes. Your baby grows from a baby to a toddler to a adolescent to a teenager to a young adult to a crazy ass, individual doing whatever the heck their authentic thing is. And then they get mature finally, and then they get old, and not only that, the objects around you that you love, some of them are fragile, and the really valuable ones, other people want to steal them. And some of them are made of glass and they break, and others they wear out in the sun or whatever. So you love things, and the stuff changes, and that change is what challenges your focus about the very nature of reality. So life's going to come at you because the things that you love are going to be challenged for whatever reason. Whether it's just time, grinds them down and makes them old. And besides that, there's a part of the world out there that is going way faster than you are anyway. And you can see it moving fast, and it's I think that one of my daughters is one of these. She has declared, she has come into this world, momentum at all costs. Momentum is what I've decided I'm going to do this time. And I know I'm all right. I know the fast slide. I get to the bottom like everybody else. I don't know. It's not like that for me. I have chosen a life of stillness so that I can understand the motion. I am at the hub. I'm sitting in a place of quite stillness, but my desire is to be in really sweet alignment, so that as I look out the world, I can help orchestrate and coordinate with the world of change. But I want to do it on my terms, from kind of my own easygoing flow, from where I am. Life comes at you. Your children get in trouble, or your things have to be guarded, or maybe you lose your money, or, the markets are moving. You can't completely stop, even if you wanted to. And I don't really want to. I just like it when it's slow and easy and slow. And I like to sit back and ponder. I like to have time to do things like this show. If the world got really fast, then my whole perspective on this would have to be a little bit different. And I have faith that in one way or another, I'm going to be able to create my sanctuary. It's like sanctuary. This is sanctuary in a storm. Eye of the hurricane. Whatever happens around me, and I'm not naive about what's moving out there. I'm really not. I understand my world is moving. And I want to be a relevant part of her. But I want to do it from an appropriate position from my point of view. I don't necessarily even want to vastly have a large lifestyle change. I like gentle changes on my own terms. Like if I, at some point, if I could really convince my husband that we had all the money that we needed, and that we would be better served, instead of saving it for security reasons, using it for our own life purposes, to make our own life position stronger in this world. Don't have it invested in the bank. Have it invested in the hardware around your, the mechanics of your house and such, so that your own fortress, your own little space is safe. Now, there's different ways of looking at it. The world isn't exactly the same way it used to be. Maybe there is more security in having it in an institution somewhere, because something could sweep away your house. And if all your money is vested in your house, wouldn't it be nice? But if something sweeps away your house and you got money in the bank, you can just go buy another house. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at it, isn't there? I think there's an appropriate mix of both, and if I could just make us an extra, few $1 million, 10 million, wouldn't that be nice? I don't know, an extra $1 million would be nice. One that's just laying around that we aren't doing anything with, maybe I should go play the lottery or something. No, the world is abundant, and actually, Bashar, he defines abundance. He says that the definition of abundance is your ability to do the next thing that you need to do. That is abundance. And as long as you understand that, you have that, just be clever enough to figure out what that is. One of my suggestions is if you're in despair, if you're having a hard time, lift your eyes off of the specifics of the materiality around you. There's a reason why the religions kind of tend to get you to not focus so much on the material world. Now they try to, many of them, their position is almost a duping one, where they it's a sleight of hand and obfuscation. Get your eyes off of the material world and think only of the reward you're gonna get in heaven. That is not correct. That's not the one that's not what I'm talking about. But the idea of, as you are trying to focus on reality and trying to understand the paradigm, the situation, the medium, the rules of the game, all of that, as you're trying to figure that out, if you, I'm going to get off track if I'm not careful. on one second. You can put your focus on something. It's hard for people to understand that there is a primary reality that goes right in front of. I know exactly what Abraham's talking about, and human beings can see this thing she's talking about. And if you would put your focus over that direction and just kind of look there for a long time, it's like the vision of who we are in this bigger context we're in, this vibrational reality, all the rules of the game, input it into your operating system, into your computer mind operating system, as though your operating mind is a computer. Understand that there's a lot of things, the way you line it up decides whether what you put out is completely logical, whether it includes everything, whether it's an accurate perspective of the actual reality. Now, I can only see it the way it lines up from my position, which is not the only position that there is. Actually, everyone has a legitimate, it's just perspectives anyway. But if you want to have an accurate vision of this big all thing that we are co-creating and co-dreaming and co-inhabiting and all of that, if you want to have an accurate, non-distorted by your own personal, distortions, emotional mostly. Emotions change the perspective, utterly change the view of the world. When you're someone who rests in neutrality most of the time, it's easier for me to recognize that the world looks different depending on how I feel about it. Because I'm not focusing on the world. I'm kind of sitting here in neutrality, and when I get angry, the world turns purple and red and orange and, in twisted and dark in ways and kind of whatever. And then I go back to neutral, and I see that. Oh, okay. And then I get joyful or whatever. And actually, I don't have much of a manic positive side. I could use a little more positive enthusiasm sometimes, maybe. But maybe not. Maybe the joy I am looking for is a sustainable one. A steady one that doesn't just pop. And I know that I'm going to pay for it with a dip as I get a big old, knock on the slap in the face hit of contrast. I don't live my life like that. I live my life, I'm in a state of neutrality most of the time, sort of satisfied, content, very, very interested in certain things. This particular project is warming up. I'm warming up to it, I've been at it for a year, didn't really know what I was doing at first. As I started what I call the Who Am I project. And someday there will be a website over there. I own that domain, but and protective ones around it, as well as I own something else too. It does something in the Who Am I project, Who Am I, and the Who Am I project. .net and .com and different iterations of it all. I have the usersmanual.com too. That's a book I still have yet to write. I know what the plot is, though. If anybody ever wants to join me with any of these projects, I am just an endless wellspring of ideas. Ideas about books, ideas about human systems, ideas about, who we are, where we're going. The object of the exercise, from my point of view, I've been working on this for a long time, and the object of the exercise does shift around, and there are all kinds of mini exercises. There's the big exercise, the one we're all doing, and I think the object of that one is sustainability. Then there's little projects that everybody is individually involved in, and as in my own life is project Who Am I? You know, underlining the who am I, underlining the I. So, what's my thesis in the whole thing? I believe that all the woes, literally all the woes that human beings suffer from can be addressed from this position, from this, okay, well, the fact that what your problem is coming from the fact that you don't understand who you are and how the medium works. You are faced solidly backwards and acting furiously. You have granted your avatar over to the forces of the demons. You have let your negative self drive the HBV. That's how I translate that. You think you're facing forward, but you're actually facing backwards. And as you act from that position, more and more passionately, by the way, you illuminate something rather furiously. This is actually what Hitler illustrated for us all. And there is a negative synchronicity. There is a negative organizational structure. There is a negative self. But we're creating it. And it's not just them. You don't just point at them. Oh, all of them were the ones who are responsible. All of the German people were responsible, but not just all the German people. All of the people of planet Earth were responsible for that. Because as soon as Germany did a certain thing, so what the certain thing is they did is this us and them. You can't us and them. As you think about the solution to whatever your problem is, you cannot us and them the situation, and you cannot subtract the ornery ones or the culprits out. The imagined culprits or the real culprits. The Nazis imagined that the Jews were the culprits. That they were incorrect in this. Now, we were correct in assuming that the Nazis were the culprits. However, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's correct or whether it's incorrect. The us and them paradigm, that energy, that template, if you will, setting up an energy, it kind of imagines the world in a zero-sum game. It imagines the paradigm as survival of the fittest. As a matter of fact, that war in a lot of ways was, I remember watching a show on PBS back in the 80s. I can't remember who did it. It may have been David Burke, or it could have been David Suzuki. It sounds more like David Burke. He was the guy who did Connections, and he did a show about the brain, The Real Thing. He talked about reality. I know that those shows, I watched a whole lot of PBS. I lived by myself. I watched a lot of PBS. Now, I smoked a lot of pot while I did it. But you know what? That only put me in touch with my higher self. It's actually not a negative thing. It's quite a positive thing. But, people who then don't understand how to function end up having problems with the fact that they get enamored of a higher view, you might say, and they don't know how to apply it to their realities that are coming at their face. Not to mention, it was illegal at the time, and it's not illegal anymore. As a matter of fact, it's sanctioned. My doctor has sanctioned, my ability to touch my higher spaces. But it's not really that mysterious. We obviously live in a larger context. And your brain, your physical brain, is capable of comprehending this. You are not forced through your emotions to live, fixed glued to your extreme close-up of your life. You don't have to do that. You can back out and understand who we are, who you are as a we, and how the laws of the universe work. I actually just recently met the laws of the universe. I had never met, law of attraction and those things. I would have jumped on those years ago had they floated past me, but maybe I wasn't ready yet. I don't know, maybe. Well, everything happens the way it should. And if you train yourself to interpret everything that happens to you as just as a matter of reflex, the equation to you is things are always working out for me. I have a little plaque. It's written backwards. And so when it sits on my dashboard and reflects in the sun kind of faintly in the glass in front of me, it says things are always working out for me. And it's a mantra. It's a mantra. And it's not just, you aren't assuming. So the universe is very supportive. And the way you interpret what you get is what you're weaving the reality of what you get out of. And so you can weave it out of darkness, you can weave it out of light. Whatever you do with it, it will support you. And if you train yourself to interpret everything that happens to you as to your benefit, it turns out to be deeply, deeply, broadly, actually all-inclusively true. It's true. Things are always working because the universe is expanding, and you are intimately and integrally, and I perhaps say those words advisedly, a part of this whole picture. You are an integral part of this expanding universe. You are a field phenomenon. We are all a field phenomenon. We really are. Now, all the other things aside, now other people, it's their job to go out and be their specific whatever. For some reason, I am absolutely fascinated with the abstracted laws of the universe. And to be able to, this meditation that I do, that I have been doing for the last year, has been absolutely mind-blowing to me in how it has changed the game. And the reason I believe that it is because my speaking these words out loud and recording them as I do, and then even better than that, I put it out in a place where people can touch it if somehow they are inspired, to find it. And then if something in it speaks to them and they keep listening, and then now I'm connected to other consciousnesses and stuff, it has put it into a field of reality different than when all of these thoughts that I speak out loud, I have flitted through my mind, and probably a lot of our minds too. They pass through our minds as thoughts, but we don't know what to do with them. Then the reality around us, closes in. But by speaking these words over and over and over again, I feel a vibrational reality coming into being. It's changing me. It's changing me. Things that I believed before, I know to be true now, in a way that I can't explain how I know it. And I know that I know it because I've laid the tracks in my neurons through the speaking of the words over and over. It's almost like casting spells. It really is like casting spells, actually. This show is casting a spell. And the spell I want to cast is we need to understand who we are, because a better understanding of our equipment will lead to a better result on the ground. Doesn't it just make sense? It would. Don't go with your negative self. Honor it. Hear what she has to say, or I like to do this one. Hear what he has to say. But when push comes to shove at the end of the day, listen to don't act unless you are operating from the impulses of your non-resistant vibrational higher self, who resides in realms of somewhere from contentment all the way up to joy. Go there. Don't act on the others. Think about it when you're in the others. Try to apply the formulas when you're in the negative states of being. Apply the formulas, meditate, put your feet in cool water if you're hot, in warm water if you're cold. Take care of yourself. Get a massage. Take a nap. Have a meal. If you're hangry, then get something to eat. Don't push through while you feel bad. You're just messing it up. If you are acting from a negative state, from a broader perspective, not the broadest perspective, but from your perspective in broader terms, you're messing it up. You're not fixing things. You're not helping things. You're not making yourself more safe. You're not making yourself more financially secure. You're not making your child more safe. None of that. If you're acting under the influence of your negative self, just don't do it. Just go take care of yourself, because something's gone wrong. You've got to understand who you really are. I've had flashes of it. I don't always have good flashes of this. I remember a time a couple of years ago, like the world around me just took on a surreal cast, almost just a golden, rich, textured, as I recognized the deep, deep truth that who I was a freaking happy person. This person who, that was my whole self. And the angry self was me, but was not my whole self, was just a piece of myself. So honor it as a piece of yourself, but don't act on it unless you have found your whole self. Your whole self includes a rather magnificent aspect of you. It's your source self, your inner being aspect. Don't act unless she is with you. Did you see here what I did with the she and the he? Anyway, that's a good advice right there. You could imagine inside of yourself is like a village of many, many beings, and each one of them on a bandwidth of it's almost like the electromagnetic spectrum. It is like the electromagnetic spectrum, but it's being caused because you are a binary unit of broadcast, and the two of you can't get away from one another, and one of you sometimes is causing interference on the other side. Sometimes one is not broadcasting with the other one, it's interfering with the other one. Your source self is always broadcasting this positive, expansive, eager, interested, full of hope and opportunity, and looking to that kind of energy. It is love. It is liquid love. I believe that this sensation, this recognition, this place in consciousness where we all come together is being caused by the original spin that we all come out of. There's a point, a mysterious somehow, I don't even know what kind of point it is. There's a point that we all share. The pull of the shared point. It is both love and gravity, and it is an organizational force that is trying at all times to organize us one with another. And it is organizing us along the lines of our desire, our joy, our love, what we like, what we care about, what we love, and also organizing us along the lines of the points that will keep us alive. The 7 things we need to live: clean air, clean water, healthy sleep, healthy food, shelter, relationship, and expression. Those are the 7 things we need to survive. And so, all of our inner being is in alignment with all of that. She understands where everybody's desire is and where it comes together in a win-win-win-win point. And so the highest level of organizational clarity is going to be the win-win points that you can come up with. Win-win businesses and win-win, ventures of all kinds. Things where you aren't just doing stuff for me or following by rote a formula that by faith you believe if we all do this, then our order will be established. And order is an important thing. But you know what? What we really want is the blessed order that the universe is trying to offer us, each from our own position and each from our own heart, our own connection to source. But people have got to understand who they are and how this source side and specific side works together as a tandem unit. And when you misunderstand the situation and mistakenly operate from your negative self, believing that is you, you create energies in the world that we all have to deal with, in big and small ways. And when we all line up in those negative energies and collectively act from our collective anger or our collective outrage or our collective, whatever, you don't want to be doing that. You don't really want to be organizing in those. Those are chaotic storms, and they're going to spend their force. They will have their way. They will have their day. And if you're feeling the churn of that energy, it's pulling you, it's sucking you into its vortex. That's true. That's true. It's like there's 2 kinds of organizational forces going on. One more like a hurricane or a tornado. It's a storm, an organized storm of chaotic energy. And then there's this other kind of love organization of pinging from our inner selves. And so the answer is, everybody be your authentic self. Understand who you are, how you connect to source, connect to your source, and then go be yourself. And we will all live, if everybody would do that. Now, I know that's a very big if. And the good news is that to make this formula work for you, everybody else doesn't have to do their thing. Although ultimately, peace on earth and the heaven on earth that many of the religions have alluded to the possibility of it ever occurring, this is where it would come from. Human beings, before the next cataclysm bombs us back into the Stone Age and we lose all our technology and our culture and our identity again, and all of the information that has brought me to a place where I can do a show like this, with all the information of all the world at my fingertips now, like no other time in history. And then my ability to, just set up my own little microphone in my own little studio early in the morning and just say my piece to the world, cast it out there, and if somebody listens, great, and if they don't, that's fine too. It will evolve. It's already evolved. I've been doing this I have been on the air since January, but I started recording, at first just on my phone. I had a little audio thing, and then I moved from there to Audacity, and I got a bunch of files on Audacity. And then I started recording in the OBS studio, but I didn't post them to YouTube for quite a while. I have actually a whole bunch of them just on my computer. And so I've been doing this for a year and a half. Is it a year and a half? A year and... I don't know. No, maybe it's just a year. No, I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'm going to get lost in this. And I don't want to lose my train of thought. Who are we? Who are we? And what's the point of all this? And how do the laws of the universe fit into, the meaning of my life? What are the laws of the universe? Let's see, we got to review them. Maybe that's something I review every day. It's there will be main things that are always on the show, so that even if somebody, tags in that has never heard me before, they can get up to speed fairly quickly and understand that basically this is just an exercise, people. This is an exercise in non-resistant thought. After the show, I click out of this, and I am not some magical being who can change the physicality of the world we've got around me, with a snap of my fingers. I understand that the reality I speak of, in a lot of ways, doesn't always match. But I don't know what you're looking at. And there's such a variety, I can't assume anymore that you are either the same as me or that you can see the same viewpoint as me. So why not take the why not take the idealistic viewpoint? Actually, do I take an idealistic viewpoint? Not really. I am cognizant of the evils of the world. I still watch a lot of shows about the Third Reich. I find that a particularly interesting paradigm. It played out. It's like, look at it like a movie now. And the plot of the movie. Only it's not something that somebody has just imagined and it's wild and crazy, like on Masterpiece Theater or something, and you can't decide whether to believe it or not. You don't believe it because it's just something somebody made up. And the cast of characters, it's very well known. A lot of things about all of the cast of characters, their ideologies, they're on record over and over and over again on film, written down. The Third Reich was very much about, recording everything they did in triplicate. They were hiding nothing. They believed in everything they did. Now, right there at the end, there was a mad scramble to destroy things because I think part of them absolutely knew that what they were doing was shameful and out of alignment, and seen through the eyes of other people, they were never going to be able to explain this. And so they knew they were in trouble, but they had created so much evidence that, when you study this, how that whole thing went down, and then the whole world participated in one way or another in that whole exercise. And so everybody has a legitimate angle to be able to look at think of it as like a visual aid, like an illustration. But don't think of it in terms of us and them. You're looking at it in terms of, we did that. We are humanity, and we are trying to understand ourselves. Know that we are learning. We are learning. So you don't need to, if you go back to, say, Outlander times. I do like to watch a lot of period pieces on television, Masterpiece, and Outlander was done by Stars, not Masterpiece, but it's the same kind of Poldark and all those kinds of things. Love that. It's actually a beautiful way to start putting together the puzzle that is humanity and humanity's story. And it is an interesting story, an interesting tale that it tells about who we are and what we are about. And it isn't just, I think that the object of the exercise has been to understand who we are. I think that's why we're here. The object of the exercise is to understand who we are. Now that's interesting. You can put that in, you can enter that into your operating system and run that as a program, and then spit it out at the end and taste it, feel it, go, what does that feel like? Does that feel interesting? Is that an interesting, our thoughts and our beliefs are way more easy to change than you think they are. It's operating system, it's software to our program that is actually way more flexible than we usually allow. We're usually glued hard to whatever specific thing we've got, and we're not able to pull back from it and realize that, oh, the form changes all the time, and there's this thing behind the form that is actually holding the form up. What is it? Well, that actually enters into the discussion of who am I? Because it's the quantum field. It's the field of Planck's. It's the ether. It's the plasma that the universe is made up of. What the universe is a field of Planck's. Solid packed Planck's, the Dirac sea of a roiling sea of almost infinite energy. It's to all intents and purposes, it might as well be infinite energy everywhere, caused by the whole thing interacting with itself through, these Plancks reverberating their holographic interference pattern that contains all the information of all the universe. Now, that's what empty space... So the whole thing is this ether. When it organizes into spin, it looks like the material world. When it doesn't organize into spin, it is just a roiling sea of this infinite... It's not exactly background energy. It's present right wherever you are, there it is, because it's all these Plancks, it's all solid packed Plancks, and when they start spinning together, then that's what we call the material world. It is like the coffee and the cream, and when we look at the physical world, we're only counting the cream, we're not counting the coffee. The Planck field, the whole field is spinning. Actually, in the case of the universe, that's undoubtedly what the motion of the whole universe is it's the coffee spinning. And you know what it is it's the dark energy. It's the dark matter and the dark energy that the conventional physicists over there are still trying to find. It's the spin, baby. We live in space that is full, amidst spinning space-time, and we are spinning. The motion of everything is actually the motion of spin. It's the motion of spin. Things are, they spin into your experience and they spin out of your experience. And it doesn't really look like twirling, whirling spin because we're almost spinning at the same speed. In a big way, the whole planet is spinning, around an axis, and then that planet is spinning around a sun. And there's a song that tells you all the numbers. It's the song from Life of Brian, actually. Just remember that you're standing on the... If I'm going to start singing, I got to go find the words. Actually, that's not... I could have gotten lost over there. It's called the Galaxy Song. And it points out that we're going... we're spinning, the Earth's spinning at 900 miles an hour. And then we're orbiting the Earth at 19 miles per second. And then the sun and all the stars around are flying around the galaxy at 1 million miles a day, and that is flying around at 40,000 miles an hour, unless that's the same as the one. Anyway, the idea is, I believe mysteriously somehow when you add up every single spin of every single everything, you find out that we're all going at the speed of light, because light is all that it is. It's all very mysterious and very cool. Now, what is the thesis of the show? I've already elucidated one aspect of it, which is that I believe that we need to understand who we are, because that's been Project Humanity from the beginning. We need to know who we are, and we need to know how this works if we are going to make it to what I think is the object of the exercise, which is sustainability. And it's an issue now. It never was the issue before. Sustainability? Are you kidding? You know, the sustainability had nothing to do with it. We had continents still full of animals and plants to plow through before sustainability on this planet actually became an issue. And now we're smack dab up against another hard place, which is this cyclical warming pattern that we're in the middle of, that we're making worse by our use of fossil fuels. And that's the second thing that I think that it's the second object of my exercise. Not only to bring peace on earth, goodwill towards men, have all of us understand our equipment so that we can more appropriately behave in this world and organize in this world and be successful individually. Because you know what? This universe of love will organize through love in an infinitude of great ideas. There's no one set way. And so it's up to every one of us to be ourselves, to follow our own desires. And think of your desire, don't think of it as, you know, my desire is peace, for instance. That's my desire. My desire is peace. Peace and sanctuary and beauty and, you know, the soft, gentle harmonies of life. You know, so it brings my soul tremendous delight to live in a place down by the river. It's just 1.25 acres, fairly modest. I live in a space surrounded by trees. It is inhabited by squirrels and woodpeckers and hawks and coyotes and quail and bunny rabbits and all of that kind of stuff. It's alive. It's got butterflies and toads. We had a hatching of toads that I am still delighted about. You know, a snake slithered through my patio the other day. Oh, everything delights me, but it's a soft sanctuary. That's what my bliss is. That's what following my heart is to live in the center of an eye of peace, and let the world be what it has to be, you know, because it is what it is. I have a lot to say about that, and I actually think that we can create a much better world with much greater abundance if we would abandon fossil fuels. But when you say it like that, people cringe because they know that that would be hard. Everybody's structure is all built on, you know, their technology isn't going to work. The technology that I have is not going to work if I don't have fossil fuels. Now, there may be the potential of other technology, but we haven't built it, and I don't have it. So people might start getting nervous. Well, what? So this is what I think the answer is. Because I believe it is possible for us to not have, we don't have to use fossil fuels. We could exploit or begin to incorporate, this is what I think we should do. Understand that over-unity devices are possible and begin to incorporate them into the already existing system. It will inject energy into the system. And little by little, we can bridge that kind of energy. You know, we can do away with our fossil fuel burning transportation systems. A better understanding of actually how the universe works is going to clear us from gravity. We're going to understand how to lift our vehicles off the surface of the planet without having to thrust it off of the planet, resisting. Resistance is futile. There's a reason why all of our shows keep saying that. Now, they say it from the bad guy's point of view, and we always say in our heroic heart, I will resist and I will prevail, or whatever. But the truth of the matter is that there is a flow to this. There is a flow to the universe around you. And if you would try to go with the flow a little more instead of bristling hard and looking for the combat, looking for the resistance to throw yourself against and prove your worth or whatever. That's a mistaken paradigm, and it's messing the field up. We are a field phenomenon, and when I say that, I mean we're connected. It's like if we're in if we're all in a pool, and say that pool is small. If I'm over here making waves really hard, it's splashing you. It's that kind of effect. What you do over there, because the universe is actually a kind of a liquid plasma, but it's made of plonks that are all touching each other. And we discount most of it because it appears to be random. This sea of plonks, although it's everywhere, it appears to cancel itself out to the random function, and so physicists have disregarded it. But don't disregard it. The fact of what it is when it looks like empty space, it's just not organized. It's just fluctuations. When it looks like stuff, when it looks like matter, it's because it has spun. It had through gradient density in the field, it has spun into coherence, into organization, and become what we call the material world. But it's all one thing. It's either spinning or it's not spinning, but it's all plonks. And it's like all connected to itself. It's like the universe is one organism, one being that is in touch with all of its parts. It really is what the religions have been saying. It's the coolest thing. And it's both deeply personal, and completely not personal at all. And your emotions about it, well, I don't know what to say about that, so I'm not sure why I started that sentence that way. So why do I think it's going to free us from fossil fuel? Well, we have a matter of this paper. It's not, I don't know why I always go there. There's one more higher. Origin of mass and nature of gravity. That is, I still need to figure out if I can screen share on the OBS Studio. That would be cool. If I could figure out a way to screen share, then I could scan over a bunch of stuff on my computer and I could show you. Ooh, it would be so cool. That would be cool. As it is, I have had to take snipping tool screenshots of things and then enter them as background slide scenes on the OBS background. So it's not as slick as I wish it was, but it is not my intention to be the technical. It is my intention someday, somehow, to organize with others in blessed, beautiful, cooperative, and coordinated ways to create beautiful messages to humanity about who we are and what's really possible and what our future could look like. Yeah, it's from an idealistic perspective. Why not? That idealism has to be translated. At some point the rubber does hit the road, but you hold the pure clarity of what it is you want. You just hold that. Just hold that. and, play out, interface as good as you can. Use your mind to jack up your emotions to a state of excitement about the possibilities, and then disconnect your attachment to exactly how it has to be. That's one deep, I was going to say deep truth, but it's not really a deep truth. It's good mechanical advice about how to work the system, how your system works. You are trying to translate through into this dimension as clear as you can your pure desires for things like peace and beauty and love and relationship and fun and efficiency and sustainability and all the things. Sustainability is a big part of it because nature does like to repeat. That's how the ecosystem grows and grows and grows, and the abundance builds. And we need to be a part of that spirit. It's a spirit. It's a spirit. And so you go over there and you hold that spirit, and then you have faith. You understand how the universe works, how consciousness is a feed-forward feedback. The universe really is learning about itself. It's learning. It's learning. Be part of that learning. Know that you're learning. And know that we're kind of in a position where, we evolve or we die. Evolve or die. And actually, Abraham tells us, and I have come to believe her, the evolution is inevitable. The expansion is something that is happening across the field, and we are part of it. And the only reason that we aren't going there faster is that we imagine that we're not expanding, and we're attaching to things and trying to hold them in place, and we're misunderstanding who we are, and our umbrella is up. She likes to say the umbrella is up against all the well-being that's trying to rain down on us, but we keep insisting that it's this dark thing. No, life is hard. Life is hard. Life wouldn't be hard if we wouldn't make it so damn hard. I think the biggest reason why we do that is we just don't understand ourselves. We believe our negative self. We believe the negative self in each other. When we see somebody under the influence, in the throes of a negative emotion, instead of thinking, it's like Abraham says, if they were bleeding on the side of the road, she knows that you would help them. Well, not everyone was the Good Samaritan, but that was way back in the day. Back in the day, maybe it was more uncommon. Right now, if I saw somebody hurt and bleeding, you bet I would run to their aid. Of course you would. Of course you would. But when you see people in the throes of a negative emotion, you don't recognize their misalignment as being like a pathology. But it kind of is a pathology. It's a pathology in a way, but it's not. It's a pathology in the same way that trying to drive your car with the emergency brake in place is a pathology. It's not really a pathology. It's a misunderstanding and a misuse of the system, and a unnecessary slowing it down for no reason, by misunderstanding the equipment. It's not really a pathology, but it's not really something you ought to be doing either, That's actually a wonderful analogy to the misunderstanding of your system. So what's the answer here, people? It means that in general, as a people, especially here in this country, we're doing a lot of things wrong. Because instead of soothing one another to better behavior and helping one another to find their own authentic calling, we're still, trying to beat one another into better behavior. That's like, morale, and the beatings will continue until morale improves. And you know that the beatings are going to continue forever and ever. And you know what? Morale isn't improving, so let's just beat them harder. Well, that isn't going to improve morale ever, 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 ever. And you could think of our criminal justice system as that, but that's pushing against it. You'll have to think about why it's there, even. It's like the more out of alignment we are, the more of a paper trail we leave. You know, the more we mitigate it in courtrooms trying to, get to the bottom of what's the truth, what really happened, what's true. It's really interesting. We are just such an interesting people, and we don't really need to push back against anything. We don't have to push back against any conspirators or conspiracies or, any evil. If you spot the evil and start going after it, pushing against it, it's like the objects in Bellatrix Lestrange's Gringotts A Bank Vault. They get hotter and multiply. So don't push back against things. What the idea is, find something positive from within yourself, something that interests you, something that delights you, something that you are passionate about would be nice, but just start with interested in. Find a way to move in a positive direction. Now, like I said, I've spent a lot of my life in neutral, just kind of floating, and that's fine. There's really nothing wrong with that. I could tell you specific stories about exactly how events played out so that I did kind of live a resting, peaceful, neutral, I'm not particularly proactive life. I floated down the stream of life and, came across troubles, along the way. And how at different times in my neutrality, I became moved by something that life happens to you. Remember I said that earlier in the show. Life does come at you. Even if you play it neutral, things you don't have to worry about it. Life's going to come at you. And there were several times when I became aware of things in the world that I was horrified about. And wanted to do something about, wanted to raise awareness about, Hey, if everybody knew that this was happening, we'd all stop it, right? Well, no, that's not how it works. And as I tried to move from a negative impulse, because my outrage, my fear, my horror, spoiler, although if you've listened to me before, you might know what some of these are. One of them was vivisection. When I recognized what was underpinning both the legal system at the bottom of the pharmaceutical, how do you say this? The pharmaceutical system that we've got in place insists that X number of animal tests be done to fulfill legal requirements so that it becomes more likely that it isn't poison that we're putting out. If we did all the requisite animal testing, then we fulfilled legal requirements to assure that pharmaceutical is safe to begin clinical trials to actually start testing it on human beings. And that whole system was set up, it was helped to be set up originally by John D. Rockefeller, who helped set up the pharmaceutical companies to put out the drugs, the medical colleges to educate the doctors, the legal systems to make sure that those two, and he had to do something. He was forced to diversify Standard Oil. He couldn't just be over there being the oil baron. He had to diversify. And so out he went into the world diversifying. And he's hailed as some kind of a philanthropist, but he effing wasn't. And we live today with the momentum of some of the things that misaligned things that he put into place, and then the momentum of them and their misaligned intentions have only grown in the past century. over a century, actually. It's around 1913, whenever that he got going with that sort of business. Anyway, I ran across this information in the 1980s as a powerless, connectedless individual. I'm just a bartender in a local, whatever, imagining that my prince, I've got him on the phone over there and, he's got his reasons why we aren't together right now. I don't care. It's keeping me very calm. I was just living my life, tending bar, shooting pool, making friends, having a good time, not really looking for tomorrow. And I come across this information, big information about the big, big world. Ronald Reagan was the president for most of that decade. And his administration, I was horrified at the way the big agging of America, as all the family farms disintegrated and Monsanto and the monstrosities of agriculture started taking over our food supply. And it's horrible. It's still there. Now, there is a movement towards small farms, and this movement is going to get really big as soon as all the small farms have, to begin with, all the free, clean energy that they could possibly need to run their farm equipment, to control their climate, to process their product, whatever it is, whether it's goat cheese or whether it's artisan honey or whether it's magnificent peaches or whether it's authentically loomed and created flax garments, or whatever it is that people could do. There's an amazing wealth of ideas that people could go out there and create if they didn't have to, first of all, destroy the planet in order to get an energy supply, in order to be able to run the machinery that will both make their lives comfortable, allow them and their goods to transport around the planet, and then, all of that. This is going to change everything. Our ability to either tap directly into source energy and have free, clean energy from source itself, which is the optimal way, which means whenever an item of technology is created in the first place, it will have a little interface inside of it that tags it into source energy so that it is already connected to the source. It's already plugged in. Ideas like AI and automation and stuff, they should be exciting us. As humanity, they can take the drudge work away from the people right now who are doing the drudge work. Unfortunately, the way the systems are in place right now, it's the people who are doing the drudge work themselves who are upset and resisting AI and automation, because it's their drudge jobs that are on the chopping block. And there's no safety net. There's no sense of we are all in this together from this country. We do not feel like we are all in this together. We feel like we are hostilely polarized into two camps, which is crazy. We shouldn't be in two damn camps. And we should never in a million years consider electing someone from the angry party, from the grievance party, from the it's everybody else's fault party. Oh, those bugs have gotten smart. You go to squish them on the wall and they just drop to the floor. And then you have to wait until you see them again. Oh well. So, it's going to change a whole lot of things. This is our future. And you could say I'm pie in the sky. Oh, that's next century or whatever. You're looking too far forward. But I don't think it is. People tell us that we don't have that much longer. If we don't start transitioning our systems that we got going on right now, that we're not going to make it. Bruce Lipton gives us figures like less than 25 years from now, we're not going to have significant fish in the sea. The fish are going to be gone. The fisheries are going to be gone from the sea. Are there going to be some, kind of nasty tasting, mostly bones or guppies here and there? I'm not saying it's going to be dead. But I'm not sure what he's referring to. He says by 2048. That's pretty specific. I just say by 2050. That seems close enough. He maybe says 2048 so it sounds more precise. I say 2050 so that it sounds more general. Generally speaking, bad news is coming down the pike if we don't shift. If we don't shift gears somehow. And I used to think that we were doomed. I saw humanity just doing what they were doing, and it didn't look like anything could ever interrupt us. And then I saw something in 2020 that really actually gave me a whole lot of heart. I saw people, because of an idea and without a lot of force, there might have been some people that had to be forced, but I jumped in. I participated absolutely willingly and enthusiastically and trustingly initially to a point. Trusting to a point. I'm trusting to a point. And then when that point passes, my trust dissolves and it's like, okay, well, you don't have me anymore. I'm not going to keep doing booster after booster after booster and continue to be afraid. And my actions continue to be, adjusted by this fear of this virus that, when that actually is not a good model of what is dangerous in the world and how to be safe from it. So you had me at pandemic emergency for a minute, but the emergency is past, and and we've got to take a bigger look at, where our health and our shape and our form and our being is even coming from. And from that perspective, how to get better, Hence the show, Who Am I? Who am I, as I try to lead us out of the wilderness that we have created for ourselves. It's a prison of our own making, our not understanding who we are, and this misunderstanding of source energy and allowing the fossil fuel industry to manipulate us and guide us to this moment in time where our momentum is pretty much thrown their direction. And it's going to be difficult to get off of fossil fuel easily. They're going to be able to sell us quite a bit more before it's all said and done, even if we get wise right this minute. Because so much of our transportation system is all... and you don't want to stop moving around the world. I don't want to stop moving around the world. We've got a flight here next month coming. We're going to go up and play golf. Hopefully, oh my gosh, my husband threw his back out and he has been in excruciating pain for the last week. I think he did it last Monday, so we're coming up on a week, not quite a week. And he started feeling it harsh on Tuesday. So, yeah, not quite a week yet. But he's been having a tough time. Sleeping, moving, sitting. We got a special chair, a glider coming. So that he can sit in a supposedly a good position. Our grumpy, grouchy chiropractor said that that's what he sits in. And he's always bothering... or getting after us or anybody for sitting in the recliners and the sofas. He thinks that's what's... He might be right. But he's so grumpy about it. In any case, I did take his advice. I bought a glider. It will be here later this week. And we'll see whether it's a better thing to sit on. But I digress, don't I? Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? I am nobody. I am everybody. I am nobody. I am somebody. It should go, I'm somebody, I'm nobody, I'm everybody. Who am I? Why am I here? Well, I think one of the reasons that we're here is because, there are so many cultures out there that have traditions that tell of a creation story. And I think we were created. I think we were genetically modified, is what we actually were. We weren't created, not like zap, like that kind of created. We were genetically modified. We are genetically modified creatures, and that's why we need instructions on how to operate. We have a tendency to believe our negative self and default to a kind of materiality when trauma damages the human, or scars or touches, scorches, when trauma scorches the human psyche in any way, we have a tendency to turn negative, focus on the matter. Actually, this might just be a current thing that happened since we became materialists. We became materialists back in... So, we are one being pedagogically moving through time, and we are learning about ourselves. And what happened about 350 years ago, maybe closer to 400 years ago now, because I think Galileo was 1620s, something like that, 400 years ago. Yeah. The church was the arbiter of truth and the great organizational force within human society. And there became an issue with it. It got out of alignment. In its cruelty and its control, that is not in alignment with Source. And it started saying that it knew things that it didn't. And it claimed to be the arbiter of all truth, physical truth, as well as spiritual truth, and all of these things. And it had certain ideas about what the shape of the universe ought to be. Based on, I believe, Aristotelian philosophy, they decided that the reflected in the heavens ought to be the same concentric, spherical, perfect spheres emanating out to, eternity, because as above, so below. And so the shape of the heavens and the astronomy, basically, was going to follow some particular perfect pattern that based on Aristotle and his philosophy of things. Well, so they thought things like everything revolved around the earth. The earth was at the center of everything, and then stuff revolved around the earth, and physical observers started noticing that what the astronomical evidence actually was, what it wasn't following what the church said. And so for a while, the church tried to suppress the astronomers, throwing Galileo into prison and the Inquisition interrogating him and such. I'm not sure exactly how hard of a time he had in prison, but it can't be nice. They apologized later, and they might have even canonized Galileo for having stood up to the organization of the church in favor of the spirit of truth. They had to get on board with it at some point because it became obvious that the sun is not going around the earth is going around the sun, and the moons of Jupiter are going around Jupiter. They are not going around the sun. It's not at all the way they said. And so they fought with the scientists for a while, and then they sort of broke with the scientists, and there was a kind of a truce that happened, where science was allowed to go off on its own, studying the secondary effect, the material world, studying the rules of the material world. And so that's what they went and did. And the church said, okay, you go study the material world and we'll be in charge of the spirit world, and that's the way it'll be. And so we became schizophrenic in a way. We sort of, and we need to reintegrate that, by the way, because we live in a single universe that contains both aspects, and they are both harmonious unto one another. The spirit world is actually the physics of the physical world that we hadn't understood. And it's like different densities of reality, going from the very, very, very dense, which appears to be matter, to the less dense that we call spirit and energy and stuff. And it's all one thing. It's this Planck field. And when it spins, it creates the effects that we call the physical world. As it spins, there's forces down and up. Down is the gravity and up is the electromagnetic fields, unless you want to go the other way around. It doesn't matter, because the up and down is all relative anyway. There is no up and down. Going one way is gravity, and out the other way is electromagnetic fields, and the strong and weak forces it's all can be explained by this spinning field of space-time. And you are that. And as such, that aspect of you is eternal and forever. And not only that, you are a continuum of information and a flow of information. And that is also eternal. And the reason that your inner being never looks back is because back comes forward with all the information of back comes forward into now, and now is the only thing that exists. That we could go back to the rules of the laws of the universe being, let's see, you exist. That's never going to change. You have your autonomous claim on your center of spin, your autonomous, specialized, individual vortex of spin that is also tethered to the original spin that we all come out of. You exist. There's nothing you can do to change that. Everything is here and now. The one is all, and the all are one. What you put out is what you get back. It's a big mirror, people. It's an enormous, complex, universal, breathtaking, perfect down to the last atom mirror of. And that's how you can tell what you are doing, because you get a tight little feedback of mirror energy right around you. And that's all feeding into the great whole that you are also that too. If you'd line those two up, your experience would be a lot more harmonious with the rest of the field. And then the last one is everything changes except for the laws. And then from Abraham's point of view, it's the law of attraction, which is that which is like unto itself is drawn. And she talks about the momentum of thoughts, thought patterns. You pick up a thought and you start thinking it, and you can think it for like 15, 16 seconds now. Energy is moving quite fast. Used to be 17 seconds. And the law of attraction will hand you another thought just like it. It might be an exponential thing, so 17 seconds later you get 2 thoughts, and then another 17 seconds and you get 4 thoughts, and then pretty soon it's your whole world, your whole focus is all centered in a field fired by that original thought and its riding spirit. And you're off on a trail, and the universe is going to support you. No matter how crazy what you just did was, you're going to get all kinds of stuff that's going to reinforce what you just did and reassure you that you are indeed correct, even if you're really wrong. Because what you may be is right in a way, but out of alignment with who you really are, which kind of disallows all of that rightness that you were. But the right that you are is still important because, so I was married to a guy, my second husband, and I had children with him. And he was a bit of a train wreck. He was an alcoholic and a troubled person in a way. Very sort of, he was kind of manic in a way. I mean, when he was on, he was big and cheerful and fun and playful, and he had so much energy to, do different things. But he had a negative side to himself because he had been raised by an alcoholic. He was born of an 18-year-old mother who then subsequently quickly spit out 4 more children. They were Catholic. The father was an alcoholic Fuller brush salesman, son of Czechoslovakian immigrant parents here in this, new world in the 1960s, trying to make a go of it, not understanding who they or anything else were or how anything worked. Their marriage did not last. Dad skipped out after having beaten the boy. He was the oldest of the children and used to take the blame for all kinds of things that he was not to blame for, because he did not want his father hitting his brother and sisters. That's the kind of person that he was in there somewhere. And I loved him very much, but he was a train wreck. And I got knocked up and had the best thing that ever happened to me in my whole life, my twins, whom I adore. And they are beautiful, and they are brilliant, and they are on their way with all of us to some pretty amazing successes that I see for all of us. But the reason I brought that up is because his problem in this world was not that he didn't need to know what was wrong with him, because he'd been told all of his life what was wrong with him, and he could see what was wrong with him. He could see where he couldn't quite get himself to live up to the ideals that he held in his heart for what he wanted to be for us, for his family, for his children. He wasn't living up to it. And he would kind of, at times he would look outward in blameful manner and blame parts of the world for his problems. At times he could be very controlling with me, what he thought I was responsible for, whatever. There were times when he would argue with me about things and start throwing in my face, well, how much money do you make? What have you brought to this family? Blah, 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 blah. And I knew damn well that he didn't really mean any of that was coming from a place, a negative place inside of him, where he knew that he was not living up to what he wanted to be for the family. And I didn't know how to help him. I knew that it was this better side of him that was twirled backwards. And so I didn't really hold it against him, but I didn't know how to free him from it. And I didn't know how to free us from it, because it wasn't fair that we live in this negative force field all the time. That was not right either. So anyway, the whole point of that was it wasn't that he didn't need to know where he was wrong. He needed to know where he was right. Where am I good? Where am I worth something? Where am I right in what I am looking at? I see this whole thing and I know I'm seeing right and wrong, and I don't understand what I'm looking at. Please help me. Please help me. And as a matter of fact, he had great faith in us. We had moments of great clarity. Usually, smoking pot. Yeah, sorry. But it was a catalyst to peace and broader perspective, and us laying down, any immediate grievances and trying to see a holistic, larger picture from a perspective of love and kindness. And so to that extent, I'm not going to apologize for it. The war in our home needed some relief. And we had moments where we knew that we were onto something, that there was something deeply not personal about the situation that human beings were not understanding. And it had to do with frequencies, and it had to do with spirits. And I'm not sure what we thought we knew, but at the time, he wanted me to write a book called The User's Manual, and it would explain to people, what the truth about love and reality and the universe really was. And it set me on it didn't just set me on a trail, it secured me on a trail I was already on, which has led me to now, I believe, this project, the Who Am I project. I could call it the User's Manual project, because we're talking about our HBV, our human being vehicle. We're talking about how to use this, how to live your specific life, how to be effective in this world. And you might look at me and say, well, how effective are you? What kind of empires are you running? Well, I'm not running any empires because, frankly, that's not what I want to do. But if you want to do that, ooh, that's exciting. That's wonderful. These rules still apply, by the way. And if you decide to build your empire from a win-win-win-win-win-win position, I'm telling you, you're going to anchor it in bedrock. It's going to be a up and coming form in our physical manifested reality that is going to last a while. If it is in alignment, if it sustains us, if it recognizes us as a wholeness and puts under the umbrella in as high of a place as it can, the win-win-win-win position, so that it's a win-win for the most number of beings under its organizational structure, then you'll have cooperative components everywhere to your ventures. You need the cooperative components, and those cooperative components come from ventures, desires that overlap one another, and then alliances are formed and deals struck and projects started and organization of humanity. And it needs to be in alignment, in alignment with who we are and how it really works. Because anything that is built that is not in alignment is basically slated for destruction. It won't last. It was Shiva energy is going to come spinning back through the field and going to knock it down. Because it's not supported by the reality of the structure around us. That really is important. The reality of the structure around us really is important. It isn't just arbitrary, and it isn't up for everybody's, guess. Yes, it is quite malleable, and it is quite forgiving in a lot of ways. It will support you if you believe that you live in a paradigm of abundance or win-lose and zero-sum. It will support you in that, and it will start creating losers, and it will start creating, a scarcity. Yes, it will support you in that. But that is not the ultimate truth, because you can live in a paradigm of abundance. You can go the other way and live in a win-win paradigm where we're all in this together, and it's survival of the fit, not survival of the fittest. We don't have to always be, combating to make sure that the weakest of us fall away. So where are we in the narrative? I started to talk about us being genetically modified, and then I backed off of it for a bit. There is some evidence of this truth. First of all, look at the neocortex. Here, this is the diagram of the human mind system, you could say. And we still have our lower mind systems. As we evolved, we just got layers of mind over the top of it. We didn't trade in our lizard brain for a mammalian brain. We didn't trade in our mammalian brain for the neocortex and the human mind, the way it's structured. We didn't do that. What we did is we just became more and more and more layered onto it, over the top of it. As a lizard, think about it. When you're a reptile, all you have to do is just lay your eggs and run. You don't have to take care of them. So you don't have to be structured to think in terms of, you don't have to be attached to your babies and tagged into their needs and aware of their threats. You don't have to be any of that. You can just lay your eggs and keep going. As a matter of fact, a lot of these reptiles are actually the kind of reptiles, when they come back through and their babies have hatched, they might eat them, because they don't have any of that kind of attachment. Now, the difference, though, you better be really strong in your ability to just ping into source hard, and be able to follow impulses in a general way coming at you from your environment to help you move away from threats and towards your food supply and your shelter and all that kind of stuff. You need to be able to take care of yourself right on your feet, hit the ground running. You don't have time to be an infant, a helpless infant for a long time, learning bigger layers of complexity about the world around you before you finally go out and deal with it. You're different. You're a reptile. But then now when you're a mammal, think about that. Now you've given birth to something that you've got to care about. If you don't care about it, it'll starve, or you'll forget about it and walk away and go do something else, now that you're free of it invading your body and making you all kinds of uncomfortable for these months while you grew it in your womb. And then now you've spit it out through great, possibly, discomfort. And now you've got to care about it. And anxiety and fear and maternal love and that attachment. It's an attachment kind of love. And then anxiety and fear about it is all born through that maternal brain, the mammalian brain. Now come neocortex. It's a layer of overmind that can evaluate more than just what's immediately pinging to you from your immediate environment. It's our ability to remember the past and project the future and imagine things that aren't actually true yet. Put things together in the air as opposed to, having to put them together on the ground in physicality. That's the neocortex, is what's able to do that. To sit down and work for hours on a design, and then, like, say you're an architect, and you sit at the drawing board for the longest time and you imagine this thing that does not exist into place. And it's based on stuff that does exist, like the piece of land and the topography of that particular site that you've chosen to build, that rocky cliff that you're going to attach that house to, or, whatever. All of that kind of stuff. That's the neocortex mind, is the one that can do that. And this mind is largely comes from human chromosome number 2. It's responsible for 3/4 of the volume of that neocortex comes from human chromosome number 2, and it is a very fishy, suspicious chromosome indeed. So I went to Greg Braden's seminars. I've been to 3. One with just him, one with him and Bruce Lipton, and one with him and a bunch of other presenters, including Joe Dispenza, Anita Morjani. There were some other people that I wasn't familiar with before the conference, and so I have a hard time remembering their names now. And they were into different things, different aspects of this. It was a science and spirituality convergence conference. It was one of those kinds of things. So very scientifically grounded. They wanted to be grounded in scientific bedrock as they discussed all their crystals and spirit and woo-woo, you know. And it was very interesting. But anyway, so he talks about this in his Human by Design and stuff. He does not baldly say the words, or at least last time I was at a conference of his, it was 2023. It was last year. It was last March. A year and a half ago, actually. Now, a year and a half ago was the last conference I went to. And he was still talking, but he even then, he did not use the words genetic modification. He did not use the words aliens, extraterrestrials must have done this to us. He just kind of threw out only what he knows, which is that there's an article in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, so it's in the journal it's in a scientific peer-reviewed journal of from our National Academy of Sciences. Some geneticists studied chromosome number 2 and determined that what it actually was 2 lesser chromosomes from a lower species, a less evolved species, glued together at the telomeres with redundancies on both sides clipped away, and that seems to have stabilized the fusion. And it was done. It is the missing link. It's what created anatomically modern humans, at least from the neocortex perspective, at least from our brain configuration's perspective. Now, there may be other things in our genetics that, show other things, but this is very fishy. So I looked it up. First of all, I did not know what PROC period, NADL period, etc. I didn't know what that stood for. Well, you look it up, and somehow that is the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. I did not know that NADL was a contraction for national, but apparently it is. So you look that up and you go to pnas.org and you find this volume 88. It was published back in 1991 in October. There's two volumes that come out every year. Maybe more now. I don't know. This is one on genetics. You'd think that it would be easy to find these page numbers. It wasn't easy. I ended up just looking at them article by article, just reading the titles of the articles. And they're from all the different, there's geology stuff in there and physics and all kinds of stuff. It's not just genetics. It's all of the National Academy of Sciences. All of the different disciplines publish their work to this journal. And back in 91, these geneticists say this. I found the article, 40th article in. Apparently, you can like them. You can Facebook and Twitter, which isn't Twitter, it's Twitch, or I don't know what Twitter is anymore. I'm not on Twitter, so it doesn't matter to me. But anyway, here it is. Origin of human chromosome number 2, an ancestral telomere to telomere fusion. And now I couldn't get this all. I snipping tooled this and made this photo. I couldn't get the whole abstract in. I had to scroll. And so anyway, here's the full abstract. And it's just the abstract to the full article. There's 4 or 5 pages of the article where they in depth describe in detail they sequence the whole chromosome and show you how it's 2 chromosomes stuck together at the telomere with redundancies clipped away on both sides. And here they say, we conclude that this is the relic of an ancient telomere to telomere fusion and marks the point at which 2 ancestral ape chromosomes fused to give rise to human chromosome number 2. Now, as far as I know, the geneticists who published this article, and here's their names, Ijdo. I don't know what that font is hard for. Is that IJDO? If it's that, I don't know how to pronounce that. Baldini and Ward and Wells. Oh, Ward, Wells, Baldini, and whatever that first guy, JW, whatever his name is. As far as I know, they did not make their careers then by claiming that this was extraterrestrials and whatever. They're just saying, hey, we're not saying how it was done. We're just saying that it was done. Now, back in 1991, they wouldn't have gotten much traction for the extraterrestrial thing anyway. And so they just threw it out there, and it's been out there for the last 30 years, 33 years. Here in another month. I'm the one who's saying I think that this is implying that I think this is alien technology inside of us. And it created the neocortex, which is our overview mind, which actually produces our positive and negative emotions. It produces our negative emotions. It produces our negative emotions. It can also jack up our positive ones, but it actually produces our negative ones. Or that's not exactly true, is it? Because the mammalian brain had the negative emotions too. When you have the ability to, what your negative emotions are, and not just your negative reaction to something in the moment. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you have long-term negative emotions because you're spinning thought from a negative source. That's a different thing. Those animals, the mammalians, cannot spin thought. So they just have their negative emotion and then it's gone, you know. But we can hold that negative emotion in place by spinning thought from it. And all of the thought that we spin from our negative emotion is faulty. It's flawed. It's godless. It does not contain your inner being. It does not. It's in a dark place that anyway, here is I don't know if you can read this very well. You probably can't. And since it's YouTube, you can't pause it and then expand it either like it was a regular web page. I wish you could do that with YouTube. Like focus in, make it really big. I see, sadly, that I am past an hour and 52 minutes, which means I've got to wind this up. I'm having a good time. I always have a good time. I enjoy this time that we spend together, or that I spend here by myself, spinning my own non-resistant thought around my own head in an echo chamber that I'm trying to include the whole universe with. Who am I? Who am I, and how does this work? Do I have time to say anything else? I have stuff. I have like my 4 states of being. I find this is representative of your brakes and your accelerator. And I should chart that out, write it out so that you can see and put arrows leading to, when when you go specific, that's the accelerator. That's the accelerator to your life, to materiality, to your experience, your starship going faster, the momentum of faster. When you go specific, you start going faster. The general rule is don't go specific ever when you're in a negative state. Just don't. Just don't. When you're negative, that's not the time to get specific about anything. It's not the time to start to get online and start researching. It's not the time to do any of that stuff. Don't do that. Do it from your positive self. If you're in a negative self, then know that you're off track. You're faced backwards. You're twirled around. You're bass-ackwards to where you actually want to be facing and the direction you actually want to be going. Now, sometimes you need to go a little bit backwards in order to clarify your position. If you aren't moving at all, you may not understand the motion of the situation. And so you may have to get a little bit of something going. I kind of had to live some life. I'm an older person now. So I've done my seat of the pants. I don't have any idea what this world is that I am venturing out into. I'm just going to go out and have fun and do the best I can and be myself. So, what more can you do? Well, you can take a step back and ponder the meaning of all that you have learned, and then redirect and start over. Actually, I have to end here within the next 5 minutes, and I'm a little scattered, so give me just a moment. I'm going to pause. So I'm back. If you've held with me today, I appreciate it. I should be playing golf today. Today is Monday. Monday has been the day we've been going out early. I could have done the show and then gone out later because the weather is turning so perfect. But I have a husband with a bad back that's part of life coming at us. The girls with their families and their situations and all the moving parts. That's all part of life coming at us. Oh, I remember I was on something a long time ago, and I even went and looked at it and wrote down the numbers. 900 miles an hour. We spin around, and then we're orbiting at 19 miles per second, 1,000,000 miles a day, 40,000 miles an hour. Add it all up. I think I did finish that. Equals the speed of light. Because I think that's what we are. I think ultimately we are made of light. And we're here to declare to the universe who I am. Who am I? Who are you? Are you your negative self? Well, I guess all of this can be picked up again tomorrow. Because I'm running out of time. So until tomorrow, again, do the best you can. You're here for a reason. We are all here for a reason. We absolutely are. To love each other, to do the best we can with what we've got, to recognize the reality of what is real around us. I suppose that's all part of the object of the exercise. We can talk more about that tomorrow, and we will. And so until tomorrow, may the source be with you.